Hello. I'm actually pretty impressed. 8:45 a.m., you guys are all awake. Awesome. Welcome to our first ever Developer Day. I know many of you have traveled far. Thank you for being here. There are 450 developers here today for the first ever Developer Day. And some of you may be wondering, first ever? This is the first time we have brought the larger developer community, which consists of seasoned Atlassian developers who build third-party applications on our marketplace, as well as in-house developers who build custom integrations to improve the team's experience of Atlassian's products. And we also have integration partners, SaaS partners, here in the room. Historically, our events have always skewed towards the vendor community, but today, nearly half of you are in-house developers. I'm actually really excited to see this diversity, and thank you for all being here. We have a jam-packed day. We have a great lineup of speakers with 2 tracks, 18 different sessions, and of course, lots of coffee to keep you awake. We'll close out the day in the evening with a fireside chat with me and our co-founder, Mike Cannon-Brooks, right here at 5:40 p.m., moderated by our head of product management, Anu Bharadwaj. Please join us. To make this event possible, we put together a working group of Atlassians and members of developer community. I'd like to give a big shout out to our amazing developer experience and product marketing and ecosystem marketing teams who worked alongside Christopher Bromberg from K15T and Daniel Wester from Lagoon Solutions. I'd like this team to stand up. Let's give them a big round of applause. They have shaped the content that you'll all see today. And of course, special thanks to our sponsors who made this event possible. To take us through our focus on trust and building a great developer experience, I'd like to welcome Stephen Deasy, our head of engineering, to come on stage.
Thanks, Sri. Thanks, Sri. And thanks again to all the folks who made today's Dev Day possible. I'm really excited to be here with you all today. This morning, I'm going to share some highlights from our developer community and how we're solving important problems for our customers. Then, I'll walk through what we've been building to ensure trust in our platforms and our APIs, which we know has been a huge focus over the last year. And finally, I'll share some ways in which we're looking to improve your developer experience. But I'd like to start with a story. I'm sure many of you know the Zephyrs and Tempos of the world. $1-million businesses built on the Atlassian ecosystem. But this story isn't about them. This story is about Vitaly Zaran, a man on a mission to improve how teams work together. In 2014, Vitaly worked for a company that used Jira Software Cloud to manage their development work. That sounds familiar, I'm sure, to this audience. And they needed a solution for estimating Jira stories. As it was, they had to manually export the stories from Jira and import them into a third-party tool. Vitaly, as most folks do, went to the marketplace and said, surely there's a solution there, but couldn't find one. And then, being an engineer, started poking around with the Jira APIs to see if he could build something. And he did. As he put it, it was a simple integration, but the main idea was hassle-free integration and augmentation of the Jira product. He started building the tool and decided to publish it on the marketplace. He felt if he couldn't find that tool, maybe others would benefit from it as well. And with that, Planning Poker was born. Within 6 months of going into production, he received his first payment from Atlassian. And as Vitaly said, it gave him a huge motivation boost. He bought himself a Kindle, took his wife out for a nice dinner, and thought of it as a bonus. It was a hobby, a side gig. It wasn't any more than that. But he kept at it, kept improving the app, kept shipping updates. And soon he realized that he could have other products and become a full-time developer. He had completely substituted his income with the income he was getting from the poker application on the marketplace. So he took a bold step. He quit his job. And he made the switch to being a full-time app developer and providing support. And by 2018, Vitaly was bringing in more than $350,000 in revenue from his application, which is just amazing. And earlier this year, he brought on his second full-time employee and business partner. Today, Planning Poker is the #5 application in Jira Cloud and the #9 in Jira Server. Such a cool story, and an even cooler name, Lizard Brain. For many of you who work in marketplace vendors, this is a fairly familiar story, moving from developer, shipping something, and moving into the marketplace. And there's a lot of inspiring stories like that, which we love to hear. But as Shri mentioned, today is a little bit different. We have a mix of in-house developers and vendors in the audience, and people who are building their careers on Atlassian. People like Raju Kadam. Raju has built his career around automating Atlassian apps in the companies he's worked with. He's developed apps, APIs, and plugins to help with things like workflow automation, reporting, custom analytics. And he's done that at companies like Cisco and Pandora. And today, he's working at Tesla and working with the teams there, which is pretty cool. Raju estimates that he's saved over $100,000 in admin time in each company that he has worked at, which is a very inspiring story. So what this means is more and more people are developing on Atlassian than ever before. In fact, you're a community of more than 25,000 external and in-house developers who build custom apps and integrations to extend the core value of Atlassian products. Together, you're joining us on a mission to unleash the potential in every team. But you're also helping shape the future of teamwork. And we don't mean that lightly. With more than 135,000 customers, you can potentially impact the lives of tens of millions of users around the world. Knowledge workers across a broad range of industries, from aeronautics to manufacturing to automotive, all of whom are achieving incredible things. When we look at our APIs, we see us helping fulfill a breadth of use cases. Some of our most popular apps and integrations fall into two main buckets. Team efficiency, which includes apps and integrations for automation. We know things that are essential for all customers. As I mentioned before, reporting, user management, integrations, admin controls. And secondly, product extensibility, not unlike Vitaly earlier, extending the functionality of Jira. This is things like test management, diagramming, updating the look and feel of the product, and versioning controls. I'm highlighting a couple of common use cases, but with more than 10 products, the possibilities for what you can solve and build is nearly endless. Increasingly, we know that cloud software has become mainstream. And we know that more than 90% of companies use cloud software in some form. The cloud is fundamentally a better way to run and operate software. Most of us are aware of advantages, operational benefits, continuous innovation, scaling with your teams, etc. But the one that excites me the most is the ability for you and your teams to really focus on the task at hand and not be distracted by the things around. Let me give you a quick example. Just this weekend, I was trying to connect Trello to Splunk, because that's what you do at the weekend, right? Have some fun. And I was able to quickly get up an API gateway, code running in Lambdas, and generally get the applications talking to each other in probably a couple of hours. That's amazing. I'm old enough to remember when it would take me 6 months to procure a server from my IT department, and another 1 or 2 months to ask the network team to open the outbound network connections to cloud services. It's just amazing at which the speed of innovation is happening today. We are designing for a cloud-first future. And to deliver on that promise, we believe we can run our software better than anyone else. But at the same time, we understand your company is on a journey, and the pace of that journey can change. So no matter where you are in your journey, we want to empower you with choice. And our promise is to build for where you are today, as well as build ahead for where you're going in the future. Now, because we know how much you invest in products and integrations, we're constantly challenging ourselves to make things better for you. So let's take a look at some of the new features and functionality of the Atlassian platform and APIs to ensure trust and compliance. I'll speak specifically to trust and authentication, as that has been a major focus of ours for the last 12 months. And then we'll look at what we're doing to improve your developer experience with the Atlassian products. First, let's talk about trust. We've been working aggressively over the past several months to ensure trust, security, and compliance with our ecosystem, primarily as it relates to GDPR readiness. We all see how user control is a key requirement of any successful business. And GDPR-like initiatives are happening globally. And so we see this as a global opportunity that we can help you with in your day-to-day development. Many of you have been on this journey with us for the last year to ensure your apps and integrations comply with our developer guidelines for GDPR. We know that's been a long journey, and I want to thank you this morning for being with us. So what does this mean at Atlassian? At Atlassian, we believe in working open. In fact, it's one of our company values. But we don't believe that working open is contradictory to respecting or even championing a user's right to control their data. With recent focus on providing user control, we really wanted to understand how privacy affects a team's ability to be open. And in our research, we found 2 things. First is that countries and regions have different perspectives on what it means for privacy of personal data. While GDPR has been the most visible, similar legislation and guidelines are appearing all over the world. And so this really represents a global challenge as well as a global opportunity. Second, when there are regional differences, the users still globally prefer to limit the amount of personal data that they share at work. Specifically, when they're sharing knowledge or working collaboratively with others. And so we believe that being open doesn't mean all access to all content at all times. What it really means is providing the users with the confidence and control over their data to do the best work of their lives. So we introduced the identity model to centralize profile information into a single source of truth for Atlassian cloud products. For those of you unfamiliar with Atlassian account, this is an online identity or profile which exists independently of the Atlassian product you happen to be using at a given time. It's a PII-friendly way to associate your content to a user, and a way in which we want applications to identify those users going forward. By doing this, it allows you to hook into controls that we have around profile visibility, right to be forgotten, and so on, and allows you to easily extend your products to provide that capability. If you're interested in learning more about how trust and legislation like GDPR impacts you, we have a couple of great sessions today. Erica Fisher, who is our head of privacy, has one session this morning. And then Alex Kassab, a product manager who's been focusing on this area for the last year, has another session this afternoon. And I encourage you to check those out. A lot of the work we've been doing in the last 12 months has really been focused on bringing our existing APIs to a better state so that compliance and security are easier for our users, our admins, and our developers. But going forward, we're now able to bake in those controls by default, which means more confidence and ease of development for you. Let's take a very simple example. We recently released avatar APIs, the avatar being the little picture that appears next to your name in various places. And when queried, the avatar URL will return a privacy-compliant URL to load that avatar. If the user has set their profile such that they want their visibility hidden, the same URL will send back a compliant avatar that you can display. So as a developer, you don't have to worry about managing the user preferences, switching between different endpoints, managing that content on your side. And so that's a simple example of how going forward you will be able to depend on that identity profile to give you what you need to comply with these regulations and guidelines. Now, a key part of trust and control is how we manage access to data across applications. And this is where we can lean on industry standard things like OAuth. We've recently rolled out OAuth 2 support in our APIs to ensure additional levels of control and privacy are met. So what does this mean? The code flow, which is known as three-legged auth, or 3LO, as we call it at Atlassian, is part of the OAuth 2 protocol and might be the most commonly implemented part of that spec. By adopting an industry standard, it means, among other things, you don't need to learn new custom auth mechanisms from Atlassian. And maybe more importantly, you can find online code, tutorials, libraries, everything you need to quickly get up to speed with using OAuth. Second, the authorization code flow is commonly used for impersonation. It can be used when an app needs to act on behalf of a user to connect to another app. This allows for a controlled and explicit access to resources, and it fits really well in a world where privacy and empowerment is king. One other thing, it also means that the applications live in the user context rather than the product context, and that really provides additional control, which we'll see in a little bit. And then finally, it's user-led. In this flow, the user gets to explicitly authorize or consent to the app to act on your behalf. And this is based on a set of scopes. So the user has control over how that application will behave and which data it has access to. The consent flow starts and ends in the application, so you don't lose your audience as they're moving between apps and setting things up and configuring and coming back. And it's not really an installation flow. It's more of a feature that happens in context of the application. The admin can control some of the applications that are available, IP whitelists and so on. But ultimately, the end user is the one in control. And since there's no installation, this flow is really friendly for multi-product applications. So as an app developer, you can ask for scopes from multiple apps and their instances, or implement multiple consents from the end user. Let's take a look at this in action. The spreadsheet. A very common integration point for enterprise apps is a spreadsheet. In fact, you could argue that the equal command is the most common programming language in the world. It's used by every department, to your IT team, to your marketing team, to your friendly finance team. And they're all intimately familiar with its usage. So let's take a look at how we're extending Atlassian products, and Jira Cloud in particular, into these applications, using that 3LO flow to provide powerful user-led controls. Importing Jira Cloud data into Google Sheets is pretty straightforward. All you need to do, select add-ons, import Jira. You'll now see the option to connect to Jira Cloud in the sidebar. And when you click Connect, it will initiate the OAuth 2 flow for Google Sheets. On this screen, you can see the user, as identified by their Atlassian account, can see what data will be shared and consents to this. The user also specifies which Jira Cloud instance they want to connect to, again, controlling that flow of data. Once you select the site, you're routed back to Google Sheets. Notice that the sidebar now refreshes, and you can use JQuery and filters to build reports off Jira right in the Google Sheets interface. In this example, we're going to run a JQuery query to pull in all issue details for a project mob. Now you have a spreadsheet with all the issue and issue attributes of the project right in the sheet, so you can build custom reports or integrate with anything else that's happening in that sheet. Here, we're selecting the issue status and creating a visualization on the work being done. This is probably the easiest type of report you can build, but for any spreadsheet wizards out there, you can imagine the possibilities that this unlocks for even your non-technical team members. If you think about analysts, your finance partners, marketing teams, this is an amazingly powerful capability. As a side note, Jira Cloud for Sheets is available today on the Google Marketplace. But Google Sheets is just one example of a personal integration with Atlassian products. If you think about the amount of tools you use every day and your teams are using, it represents a huge opportunity for developers to increase team productivity and extend our products. 3LO is available in our cloud editions of Jira Core, Jira Service Desk, Trello, and Bitbucket. And today, for Confluence, is new. OK. So that's what we've been doing on the platform side to ensure greater trust and compliance. Let's take a look at what we're doing to build a world-class developer experience. To start, let's do a quick show of hands. How many folks here today use Trello? Great. It's quite a few. Did you know Trello has over 35 million registered users and 1 million active teams? We have a very vibrant ecosystem of developers, including the same mix of in-house and ecosystem that Sri mentioned earlier, as well as SaaS vendors that are integrating with Trello every day. We're continuously trying to make the developer experience better, to provide a delightful Trello-y experience for developers. And to do that, we've recently shipped some improvements. First is the alerting UI. This is where if something is happening in the background, there was no way to notify an end user of that activity. And so now with the alerting, you can pop something up and let them know that something is connecting or has succeeded. We've worked hard to provide easier API access from within the power-up being the context in which your application is running. And that API surface area really represents what you as a developer can do. And adding icon and color updates so that your applications look more and more like a Trello experience as your end users are interacting with them. As Trello has become more ubiquitous in enterprise, we're also adding things like Butler for automation, attachment limits, and more. And we really want to make it easier for you to build power-ups and integrate to enterprise customers. But to do that, we know we have to support common enterprise processes and tools. And so that's why we added enterprise actions and webhooks to help customers be aware of events that occur in Trello. To be clear, webhooks are not new in Trello. But the addition of enterprise actions is really a great way to open up connectivity to your IT services and roll out to a broader set of users. Let's say, for example, an enterprise company uses Splunk for tracking events. And in no way, shape, or form is this related to the Trello Splunk integrations I was building over the weekend. So your IT team will want to know what's happening in the Trello side from an enterprise perspective. A couple of examples. I'm adding a team to an enterprise. I'm removing an organization from an enterprise. These are things that an IT team will want to track. Who did what, when, and where. Until recently, there really wasn't a good way to do this without building a polling system, right? So your polling service would hit Trello, pull back the content, do the diff, and then push it up to the service that you're trying to notify. You now have a webhook where Trello, when an event occurs, can automatically call back to the service and provide all of that detail for you. If you want to learn more about Trello development, there's a couple of great sessions today. Bentley Cook, a developer advocate, has a session at 10:30. And right after this, Vincent is doing a session on the Trello stack that we've been working on for the last year. In this new world of teamwork, activity is everywhere. And Jira helps bring order to the chaos by creating a common reference point for teamwork and a flexible way to organize that work. How often have you heard people refer to work by its Jira issue? What's happening with foo 123? Where are we with bar 456? And now it's easier than ever to send Jira Cloud information and have it appear natively in the UI. And even more powerful, have that data be part of the native experience in places like actions and queries, filters, and even be interactive to the user. You can send structured events about deployments, builds, release information, feature flags into Jira, and we will handle the rest. Let's see how this works. For each unit of work, there's many information that comes in from relevant sources. In Jira Cloud, this shows up as links, attachments, comments containing references to other systems. We've been focusing on providing a simple summary level view of relevant information to software teams, and also making it easier for your users to jump back into that third-party tool for a richer, deeper experience. We can do this by adding structure to the incoming data. Think of it as strongly typing the data into a set of known categories. It's event-driven, it's push-only, it's trivial to send this information, and then Jira Cloud does all the heavy lifting for you. Even better, these new APIs are built on our existing Connect frameworks, so you can integrate it with the existing tools, processes, and workflows that you already have today. So let's see this in action. In this example, you can see how native filters can be applied to data coming from an external build and deployment service, in this case, Bitbucket and Bitbucket pipelines. Watch how the quick filter allows you to filter by issues that have been deployed to a particular environment, in this case, production. And from there, you can click on the issue card and see richer information about the issue detail, including all the releases that happened for that issue and which environment those releases happened. From here, you can deep link back out to that third-party service and see the build information for the deployment that moved the code for this issue to production. And then you can quick link back into the issue to retain that context as you're moving between applications. The information is displayed everywhere the issue detail view is loaded in Jira Cloud, including the board, the backlog, full page, mobile, and the issue navigator. You can use these capabilities right now, and more information about them is on our developer.atlassian.com site. Speaking of, a large part of your time, we know, is not spent in the code. You probably spend more time than you care to admit searching for things. Reference docs, chasing down context, understanding how an issue came to be. Developers spend about 20% of their time just searching. So we know how important it is for you to be able to find the content when you need it. And that's why we've made cleaning up our development documentation a priority over the last few months. We've fixed hundreds of bugs in our Jira Cloud REST API documents. We've shipped documentation around features like Cloud Admin as we're shipping. And we've redesigned pages to help you find what you need when you need it. We updated our developer blog, which not only looks more modern and is user-friendly, but allows you to filter on articles that are most interesting to you. And yes, it does have a search bar. But look, I know you're not just looking for interesting articles. Information is scattered across multiple sources, and it's difficult to reconstruct the context of what you were working on as you move across all these different services. How did this bug come about? What was its impact? You're probably looking in Jira. Which pull request needs my attention? Is it ready for review, or is it failing a build somewhere? You can find this in Bitbucket. Where are the designs for a feature I'm working on? Where can I get additional context? This is probably also connected through those attachments or links on a Jira issue. Wouldn't it make more sense to have all of this information readily available in a place where you work every day, in your IDE? Say hello to Atlassian for VS Code. Let's say you're coding away, building something awesome, and you spot an issue in the code. Rather than leave what you're doing, go out to Jira, open a tab, and create the issue, you can now create a new Jira issue right within the IDE. The issue contains common attributes and comments. And from here, you can even add comments and context to the issue itself. You can assign the issue to yourself if you're picking up that piece of work. And to make it more contextual, you can even select a piece of code and create a Jira issue from there, which sends a copy of the code to the issue. Or you can type a to-do, and it'll pop up the option to create an issue. Now, you're ready to start working on an issue. All you have to do is hit start, and the issue automatically transitions in Jira. In this case, the issue automatically transitions to in progress. It'll create a Bitbucket branch, checks out the branch locally, and allows you to start coding straight away. When you're ready to make changes and commit, you can specify the issue key in the commit message, and this will connect your change to a Jira issue. This already happens through the existing Bitbucket Cloud and Jira Cloud integrations. All right, now it's time to create the pull request. You've finished your work. This is where things get fun. Bitbucket has a UI for creating pull requests, but where best to do it than in the tool you're in every day? You can now create the pull request without having to leave your code and go into Bitbucket. When you do this, you have the option to automatically push your changes from local to remote, update the summary, and create. Now, because I had associated this with the Jira issue earlier in that commit message, I have the ability to click right into the issues, which are highlighted on the pull request screen, and add any context for the person who will come along and perform that review later. So let's switch gears. Imagine you're the person that's reviewing this pull request. All the open pull requests will show up in the left-hand side for you. And when you open a PR, all the information is available at your fingertips. Not just the PR itself, but also all the issues related to that pull request. You check out the PR, it checks out the branch. You can view which files were changed as a diff in VS Code, and even make comments right in the code. So you now have full context around how a piece of code came about. When you're ready to finish your review, you go back to the PR, add any comments, and save. And now right from here, you can quickly approve that pull request and even merge it. All the actions are accessible in a couple of clicks, and the PR disappears from your list. Finally, and this may be the most satisfying part, is marking an issue as done. As a zero inbox person, I love it when I can knock something off my to-do list. And so again, within your IDE, you can mark the issue as done, and you'll see it drops off your backlog. It's pretty cool, right? We've been getting a lot of positive feedback on this from early adopters, and we're excited to get it in front of a larger group of developers. If you want to check it out yourself, Atlassian for VS Code is now live on the Visual Studio Code Marketplace. And for those of you relying heavily on Bitbucket Cloud, this extension also supports Bitbucket pipelines and Bitbucket issues. And all of this is built on that 3LO flow that I talked about earlier from within VS Code to connect to those applications. So I've shared quite a bit with you all today. We're thrilled to have 450 of you in the audience, from a mix of developers and vendors and in-house audience. I shared how we're building trust and providing user control over data through our APIs, and how we're thinking about that going forward. I talked about how we're investing in the developer experience through things like improved documentation, VS Code, easily connecting your applications. And you'll hear more about this throughout the day in the sessions, the 2 tracks and the 18 sessions that Shri mentioned earlier. And please be sure, at the end of the day, make your way back here at 5:40 p.m. for the Fireside Chat that's happening with Mike Cannon-Brooks, our co-CEO and co-founder, and Shri Viswanath, our CTO. Thank you all. Welcome to Developer Day, and have an awesome week.